Welcome to our podcast, a collection of interesting stories. Welcome to the podcast, Why Are People So Afraid of Change? Why are Australians so afraid when it comes to progress or change? For as long as I can remember, Australia has been a no state, no country. Maybe there is a deep-seated need to keep things the way they are. Maybe it's fear of the unknown, fear of losing your job somehow, or maybe it's media hype. And if the media was honest, you could believe them. But the result is that some topics are non gratis when it comes to change. I'm an engineer and things are simple for engineers. I know I can hear the jokes resonating throughout our listeners. An optimist says the glass is half full. A pessimist says the glass is half empty, and the engineer says the glass is twice as big as it needs to be. I'm unsure what's funny about that. What I do know is that whatever the degree of change, an engineer looks at the facts and has a positive disposition to change. Why? Because we must evolve. We cannot stay still, or we will die. I'm not saying all progress is good, but some is. And if we say no to everything, we'll miss significant opportunities. It's easy to say without change we wouldn't have trains, planes and Trump. Some change is good, some is indefensible. But it matters to understand the motivation of change makers. If in their heart is not in the right place, change must be challenged. So I'm positive to change, subject to when it's needed by society, not by the few, when it takes people forward in their lifestyle, when it simplifies your lifestyle, it improves the environment, or economically beneficial to the country or region. Not all of these are applicable to all ideas, but we have a saying that says in change, it says, the one that screams the loudest gets the cheese. Not the worthy, not the majority, not the democratic process is followed. The loudest are the fringe, not the majority, and it threatens a country's progression. I lived in a coastal town for almost a decade, and there was always outrage about something or other. But the naysayers who want their piece of paradise to stay the same way forever, they wanted our restaurants open and many to choose from. And they didn't want tourism through hotels, hence the restaurants closed. Not enough volume. This is a simple case of the loudest ruining it for everyone. There are no consequences for being the loudest. All is forgotten and forgiven next time a bright person has an idea. We need to realise that sometimes change is good and some are not to be trusted with new ideas. I went to Queenstown a few years ago. Same size city as where I lived on the coast. It was thriving. Environmentally friendly choices to entertain yourself were endless, and we had a great time. So why is New Zealand so positive about change? Simply put, they see the benefit in having tourism, and they exploit every piece of natural beauty they can to line their pockets of their residents, as long as the environment is protected. So you're asking yourself, why am I talking about this? We know there are professional no people. We know it limits society, but we do nothing. One topic that just disappoints me is the discussion of power production. In a minerals abundant country like Australia, we have an energy problem. I don't mean coal, because burning coal, even after cleaning processes, which are quite new, it's still too dirty for me. And I think our time of exporting coal is quickly coming to an end. But we sold our gas, we don't mine the uranium for our own use, and we underestimate other sources of power. As an engineer, I see the future of power consumption as a mixture of gas, solar, hydro, nuclear, wind and newer technologies. Not newer technologies that don't exist, newer technologies that do exist. We should investigate nuclear power, but the government should not do it. I don't trust them to make the right recommendation for our future. And they certainly don't trust them to appoint the right people or the right technology. It seems like a no-brainer to take back our gas. Enough said. Wind and power had their place, and I personally would like to see more of it. I ran a farm on wind, battery and solar, and no grid for 7 years, and learned a lot of lessons, mainly that it was free after the capital investment. But some behaviours had to change. So I'm setting you up for a no now, because there are technologies that can help in many ways now. Hydrogen is the obvious one for cars, and Toyota is a big believer in it. Geothermal I invested in once, but I think we're not there yet. And there is no silver bullet for solving our environmental issues and our power problems. And with our government, there is not even a spark of an agreed idea that suits Australian politicians, because they don't have to do anything, don't have to make a decision to be popular, because making decisions has a risk. And they would avoid making decisions at all costs. There is one technology that I would like to examine closely. It's called WTE, Waste to Energy. Essentially, it takes waste and burns it at high temperatures and creates power. It literally turns rubbish into power. Get rid of our waste and create power. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? The University of Sydney describes WTE as technologies that convert non-recyclable waste into electricity, heat or fuel through thermal combustion or gasification or biological digestion processes. It reduces landfill reliance by over 90%, provides reliable 24/7 power, and often 3 tonnes of waste produces the same amount of energy as 1 tonne of coal. Residual waste is burnt at over 850 degrees Celsius to create steam that drives turbines with advanced systems capturing pollutants. And if you think not in Australia, we can't get our shit together, Yarra Valley Water is quietly progressing commercial food waste to generate 22,000 kilowatt hours of electricity per day, enough to power 1,300 homes. Viola is also looking at investing in Australia in the same area. So that was positive. So it must be new technology, too risky, one that is new. We can't use it here yet because, of course, we're a fast follower. We're not a leader in this industry or any industry anymore. Nope, there are 2,700 sites around the world, including China, Japan, Europe and the US. Some countries seem to be focused on power production. Others, like Sweden, focus on landfill reductions. Currently, only 1% of landfill is in Sweden. Sweden is so good at it, they import waste from other countries. They are leading the world. Australia and its closest friends should take note. If you're positive about this challenge, you can gain great benefit by off-the-shelf products now. Our closest friends in the Pacific have a better argument for WTE than Australia, because managed landfills limit dangerous gas runoff, and a managed landfill is in a Western country. Unlawful landfills and unmanaged landfills in third world countries or Pacific nations give off far greater greenhouse gases than managed ones. So everyone seems to be doing it or investigating it. It resolves landfill problems and creates power. Not many downsides so far. The criteria we set for change at the beginning was when it needed by society, not for the few, yes. When it takes people forward in their quality of life, yes. When it simplifies your lifestyle, yes. When it improves the environment, yes. And when it can be economically beneficial to a region or country, yes. So why aren't we all building these devices? Visiting working sites overseas to see the technology working and talking to smarter people than us. Well, there is one project underway in Fiji, one that balances the Fiji perspective and the industrial necessities. The Fijian part of the project is led by Mr. Rob Crom, who has long championed Fiji projects and its people. He is Fijian himself, lives in Australia, and most known for Kukai, the fashion brand. He has passionately supported, enhanced and built services and features for Fijians for over 20 years. His major perspective is helping Fiji any way he can. His inclusion in this project, I presume, is focused on helping Fijians via stopping diesel fuel being imported, to create electricity for Fijians, stopping landfills, especially illegal landfills that leach gases like methane back into the environment, and adding more industry owned by Fijians. Mr. Crom runs a charity called Catalyst. With only help from donors and his own pocket, he aims to achieve to help Fiji create self-sustaining communities through projects such as disaster relief, employment programs, education and training programs, student programs, tertiary hostel programs, medical outreach programs, women's health, kindergarten projects, clean water. And he produces not all, but most of his fashion label clothes in Fiji using Fijian labour, which is wonderful for the economy. He is doing this project in support of the charity's goal of helping sustain self-sustaining communities. Why is their project attracting so much negativity? Is it as simple as not in my backyard? I don't believe the technologies. I don't believe the politicians, and I can understand that. I don't like the way they are. I like things the way they are. For Fiji specifically, greenhouse gases will be produced. Power will be produced at 80 megawatts. Imported diesel petrol will not be needed at a value of 250 million Fijian dollars, which produces its own pollution. And rubbish dumps will be eliminated by greater than 900,000 tonnes annually, although Fiji only produces 200,000 tonnes annually. Presumably there's a backlog of rubbish as well to burn. On the downside, they need to use land which Mr. Crom has kindly donated, has deep water access which supports support, import rubbish to run the service at full specifications, partner with a developer located in a remote area, and by the way, in that remote area, Mr. Crom owns the land anyway. So on the face of it, it looks like a great project for Fiji. So why is there negativity? Since I understand the Fiji government has visited working sites overseas, the only two challenges really can be the partner, and it's a fact of life that you need a partner to do these types of projects because Fiji don't have the technical skills to handle the newer technologies. I don't think there's any way around that. And the importation of rubbish. I would look at this as importing fuel for our furnaces that are far safer for the environment than the diesel we import now. That's a really important point. Instead of thinking we're importing rubbish to Fiji, think we're importing fuel for the furnaces that are far safer for the environment than the diesel we import now. And there are always vested interest parties that economically benefit from a project like this not proceeding. They use misdirection and lies to sour the people to the change. They are also people that say no to everything. By any measure, this will be good for Fiji. Now we need bravery from our politicians to do what's right for the majority and ignore the few. I know it's hard, but there are a few chances for politicians to make positive, long-lasting change. Let's hope Fijian politicians and Fijian people can look past their own backyard and see what's best for Fiji. This sort of bravery may be contagious and Australia may follow Fiji. I hope so. Wouldn't that be interesting? Fiji having the moral high ground on greenhouse emissions while Australia is corrupt, inept and held back due to the few. Australia rejects 90% of trade projects. I don't know what's wrong with Australians. I'm Australian, but we say no to everything. Trudeau succeeded with the idea of a GST in Australia and the gun buyback scheme. Both hated it at the time and now seen as pivotal turning points in Australia's culture. It's interesting these are two where Howard led the changes. He was brave, did what was right, not what was convenient. I asked Mr. Crom for an interview, and while I was extremely generous with his time, he asked me to read this letter from him. And I'm not going to pronounce some of the local names because I don't want to offend everybody. This is from Mr. Rob Crom. Many people know me as Rob Crom, a name I've often used to avoid the obvious questions that come with my background. My full name is Ratu Gativa Robert Charles Simon Crom. I was raised in Solavu, Atekina, in the province of Bua. My grandmother, Addie Philomena, and my mother, Addie, were my foundation growing up. They dedicated their lives to serving the people of Fiji, and that example, together with my faith and the love of my family, has been my guiding compass. I've been in business for nearly 40 years and have been fortunate to build an organisation that operates across many countries. Through that journey, I've had the opportunity to travel, learn and see firsthand how nations grow and adapt, always with a focus on doing so in a way that is sustainable and serves others. Many people have asked me why I'm involved in this project, particularly in the face of objection and the kind of attention that can impact reputation. The answer is quite simple. What we are dealing with is not theoretical. Waste is already a growing issue across Fiji, and at the same time the country remains heavily reliant on imported diesel for power. These are real challenges, and over time they only become more difficult and more costly to manage. Around the world, many countries have faced the same situation. Where landfill was no longer sustainable, they adopted waste-to-energy technology, not as an experiment, but as a practical solution. It has allowed them to significantly reduce waste while producing reliable continuous power. Fiji now has to consider the same path. I understand this project has raised concerns and attracted opposition. This is natural. Any project of this scale should be questioned carefully. But it should also be judged on facts, on proven global experience and what outcomes in the short-term interests of our country. My involvement is not about recognition nor short-term gain. It comes from a belief that Fiji has the opportunity to deal with the waste responsibly while strengthening its energy future. And this opportunity should not be ignored. If this is done, and done safely, transparently, and to the highest international standards, that is my commitment. At its core, this is about the responsibility to country, to the environment, to the next generation. If we leave Fiji in a better position than we found it, it's worth doing, and it's worth doing well. That's the end of the letter from Mr. Crom. I think he states that very clearly. Every change project has their naysayers, but hopefully they start to ask themselves some questions like, why am I negative? Are there real reasons why this should not proceed? But projects go forward to a large extent, are positive and without their input. Although I have to be honest, the world has professional naysayers, and I don't think they ask themselves any real questions. If you want to implement change, you have to be brave and thick-skinned. You have to honestly listen to your naysayers, but when there is no substance to their claims, move forward anyway. Don't lose track of what you want to achieve. 1,000 cuts or changes to a project scope sometimes leaves the delivery of the project unrecognisable. Be at all times honest. Naysayers are looking for a hole in your argument, and if you open the door, they will rush through. Control your external communications like it is a military campaign. Don't let anyone speak for you or your project. Have a stakeholder plan and stick to it. Knowing the decision makers, formal and informal, is critical, and this is the hardest piece of the puzzle. And communicate often. They can only delete your email if you communicate too much, so you might as well communicate too much. And finally, Australians are kings at saying no without even knowing the question. Thank you.